I think I read somewhere, are you one of the youngest people to travel every country?
Yeah, so there's a lot of so the quick answer, yes, one of the youngest, and then the question of like, what does it mean to visit a country? What is a country? So there are a few people, like two or three people that have done it younger, but a few of them have counted like the airport, or they have
Mm.
counted borders.
So there's a little community of you guys that
Yeah,
you
we
know
all
each
like
other like that.
basically know each other, know of each other. We've mostly met or
Mm.
spoken.
How many
Um,
people is it about?
there's like less than 200 who've done every country, but there's less than 10 that have done it in their 20s. And so we're all pretty aware of
And
one
you're
another.
one of those 10.
Yeah, so I think there's two people younger than me, maybe two or three
Wow.
people younger than me.
Mm.
But I sometimes will be like, but you didn't actually go like to
Mm.
like
The shade.
Oh snap! Oh snap!
Does
Okay,
that did,
well-
did you feel like that personally at some point where you're like, okay, at some like I feel like this is almost like a checklist thing and like you had to check yourself, or were you like being
yeah.
able
So
to enjoy each culture individually?
I was pretty lucky because I never did it really on purpose. So I was actually on a podcast a year before I finished, and they in that podcast I had hit 150 countries, and it was this like podcast for people who've been to every country or are close to it. And the guy was like, you can be the youngest to do it. And I'm like, no, like I'm gonna wait. Like I don't really care about that. Like I'm gonna, I'll do it sometime in my life, but not soon. And then 1 year later, I had finished, and so it's kind of like a switch around. And so I was mostly doing it. So I was mostly doing it for work or to visit friends or for fun. I wasn't doing it to try and to get to every country until kind of the last year or the last 6 months. And so there was one trip to Central Africa where I was doing like 8 countries in the trip. And in a lot of these countries, because of the amount of the few flights, and because of the way the infrastructure in the country is set up, you either go for like 2 weeks or like 2 days. Like you have to kind of like decide. And I did mostly like for only a couple days each, and that felt a little bit like I was checking the box. But at the same time, in each country, I had a really exciting experience. And I've always said, like, if I'm in a place for 4 days or 4 months, I'm gonna like make the best of each moment. So there's no country that I feel like I had a bad experience in, or that I didn't get like enjoy my time in. So there's the average for me was about a week in each country. There's 15 I've stayed in for 2 or more months, and I think there's like 10 that I didn't sleep in, like places like Liechtenstein and Luxembourg, and a couple of random ones. But the average was usually like 7, and I always prefer to have a reason to be in a place. Like I just think it's more exciting. Like I love traveling for work, and sometimes people say, oh, but all you're doing is like sitting in an office, but you're learning about the culture and the economy in a totally different way than you ever would as a tourist. I went to international boarding school that had students from 90 different countries, and I've stayed with friends from boarding school in 75 different countries, and that was always really fun. So like, if you ask me, like, what did I do in Nicaragua? I was mostly just hanging out at my friend's house. We like watched like Dora the Explorer, but it was like her teaching English rather than teaching Spanish.
Oh, that's funny.
And it's such like a silly thing. Like to me, it was like my time was hanging out with my friend, and that was what was important at the time.